So I realized, my goodness, I need to write about this. And I realized Lovey's story, that passage in The Beach House, how many people here have read The Beach House? Oh, I can speak openly, but no spoiler alert, okay? No spoiler alert. But you know that passage when she talks at a very climactic storm moment with her daughter, when she tells her about the summer that changed her life. That summer was 1974. And I realized, wow, remembering this, I had to read the book over again. Because it had been 10 years since I wrote the book. And I was very true to The Beach House. So, because I knew if I wasn't, I'd have a reader email me that, no, you changed the letter from Russell Bennett. Or no, that's not what Stratton said when she walked into The Beach House. So I have gotten letters, so I know my readers are very accurate. So I realized, wow, everything that I wanted to say, Lovey handed to me in a platter in that scene. So I wanted to write this book about what happened to Lovey in that summer of 1974. Now think about it, 1974 in Charleston. Yes, there were civil rights going on, but that wasn't the topic of this book. I mean, there's been a lot of really great novels written in the last few years about the South and the civil rights. But this was more about women's rights. We knew what was going on, but they were not burning bras in Charleston in 1974. In 1974, for a woman south abroad, you were born into a life that your path was laid out before you. And you were expected to not veer too far from that path. Divorce was a huge scandal. Huge. Not just for you, but for your entire family. So it was not lightly looked upon. So what happens when a woman who loves the beach, who loves sea turtles, and goes to the beach house every year, even though she has a strong, vibrant life in the city, her passion are the turtles and being free out on the beach, on a small little island called Isle of Palms. What happens when this woman, who's been married for years, falls in love for the first time? That's a tough question, and I wanted to touch on that. It's also very much fun to write about, I have to say. It was a lot of fun to write about. This is also a story about, as I said, about a woman's journey to self-awareness. A woman who accepted her path, who married the right man, thought she knew who he was. I mean, when she married Stratton, she married someone like everyone else she knew. She was comfortable with the role that she was taking on. She had no idea of what could be until she met Russell Bennett. And it wasn't, and this is what I love most about it, it wasn't just Russell Bennett. It was his validation for her passion, for her work. I'm a strong supporter and proponent for women's finding their own creativity. Every woman in this room has a creative source. We have to encourage it. We have to foster that. Lovey back in the 70s was a turtle lady. Before there were turtle ladies, there was no South Carolina Department of Natural Resources out on the beach. I think Pat Conroy in Beach Music wrote about Lucy, the mother. She was not sponsored or fostered by any DNR. She just did it like a lot of other women did it because she cared about the turtles. They made a lot of mistakes, I'll grant you, but their heart was in the right place. When I did research for the Beach House, I was fortunate enough to interview 2 or 3 women who were the early turtle ladies. These women are now gone. They're South Carolina treasures who have passed on. Florence Johnston from Edisto Beach, in particular, was a model for Lovey when I wrote the book. So I was so fortunate to have all my notes of these interviews from this woman who was in her 80s when I interviewed her. She was a treasure. So to use her as the model for Lovey, this woman who went out on the beach every morning with a commitment. Why? Not because she had a job, not because she felt it was her duty, but because it was her passion. She went out every morning. So this was Lovey. A little compulsive, yes, but that's what made her unique. That's what made her records important in this book, in this study. That's all I'm going to say, because otherwise I'm going to ruin the book. But I did want to show this woman who had a tumultuous life. And the book opens when she's, okay, again, spoiler alert. You know, in the beach house, when she's on the porch with her daughter, Kara, it's at the sunset. You know that scene that I'm leading up to? If not, you've got to read the book again, The Beach House. Very critical moment. It's the last time together. That's the opening of Beach House Memories. This is her reflections, looking back on her life, and looking back on the 10 years she'd been, more than 10 years, that she'd been a turtle lady. When I wrote The Beach House 10 years ago, I identified more with Kara, the young daughter returning home, learning about turtles, because I was learning about being a turtle lady. It was interesting that now, 10 years later, I'm closer to the age of Lovey. I'm now a woman of a certain age, looking back on my life. So I think in this respect, Lovey's insights in this book are my insights. The lessons that she learned from the sea turtles are the lessons that I learned from the sea turtles, and I get to share with you now. I also identify in a very contented way with a woman who looks back on her life and sees her children grown and settled, knowing she did her best. A woman who could look back at the decisions that she made in her life. Some good ones, some not so good, some perhaps even catastrophic. But the lesson she learned that was paramount over all was acceptance for the decision that she made and the consequences that followed. Because only through acceptance of consequences in our lives can we find peace and contentment. I think that's the root of the Magnificat, which might be the greatest prayer of all time, and all the Proverbs that talk about acceptance. It's knowing that each crossroad you're faced with a choice and a decision. And you know, you can't foresee what's going to happen. But if you approach that decision with what I call the glass half full optimism, I think it's how you weather that decision that makes the difference. You know, okay, I can manage. It'll be okay. It's like when I first moved to Charleston, to Isle of Palms, not only did I get hit with my daughter getting bit in the face by our dog during a heat stroke, that was pretty traumatic. But I was hit with not one, not two, but 3 hurricanes that first summer. Me, who had never been in a hurricane in my life, it was a baptism by wind. But we weathered it. My daughter's fine. Thank God for resilient skin. Thank God for resilience in general. I wrote a little short story for Hub City Press on dogs called Ultimate Forgiveness, about how that whole experience. But I also learned that hurricanes happen, and it teaches you not to hold on to your personal possessions too tight. So here's Lovey, having gone through hurricanes, both figuratively and metaphorically and realistically, to look back on your life and to realize I made the best choice possible, and I accept. I think, in the end, Lovey was content. And isn't that peace and contentment the happy ending we all want?